All right, guys. So today we're going to be talking about the borderline personality disorder favorite person curse. If you've ever been on the other side of the favorite person scenario, you may see it as a curse, but perhaps you don't. The fact of the matter is that the favorite person scenario is actually a form of abuse, and I'll explain that before any BPDs get bent out of shape because they think I'm stigmatizing them for abuse. I just mean that it's unhealthy and destructive. I'm not saying that you are trying to do anything, because that's really what makes it so destructive, is that we know in the moment you're very sincere. But as our players here let us know, it doesn't last very long, and people on the other end of it are really clueless as to what is going on. So I'm going to talk to you about that, and I'm going to share with you what I did to completely heal from this. So to be clear, this favorite person scenario actually is what sets up the deepest attachment for the partner of the borderline, that actually creates the scenario for the deepest wound possible. Because what the partner doesn't realize is that the borderline, when they make you their favorite person, what you don't realize is what's happening inside of them is completely opposite from what would happen when you do it. The other thing is, and hopefully I'll get to this, is that the unconscious strategy of the borderline's illness, this is not their conscious strategy, they're just trying to survive. The unconscious strategy of the borderline abuser is that they want you to have the feeling and make them your favorite person. But when it switches like that, it never works out well. But that is where you're headed. That's why this guy, he is clueless that he's being abused. So before I go any further, if you've been in a relationship with somebody who suffers from untreated, undiagnosed, and or toxic borderline personality disorder, then you know that there is no pain greater. It is completely debilitating. It can totally and completely destroy your life even after the relationship ends. So those of you who are getting on my channel, I just saw a comment today from somebody who is headed for a long life of pain. And this person said, I've just been discarded, and I hope that she doesn't call me back ever, and maybe I'll be okay. And you have no idea that you are, even if she doesn't call you back, you are headed for a life of crippling pain. The only way out of it is to heal. Talk about how I did that in my book, How I Survived My Borderline Girlfriend, which you can get on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. You can go to audiobooks.thunderwizard.com to see all of my videos. And if you have a question for me, I would love to put it on my channel. Go to askmike.thunderwizard.com. All right, so BPD favorite person. Look at her. She's on his back. He happens to be big enough to hold her. She's beautiful and skinny, and he can barely feel it. And she's so happy because she is now just super glued to him, or so he thinks. So if you're on the other end of this, in the beginning especially, it is completely, totally disorienting. Just look at the eyes on this. I don't think this model is a borderline, but the thing is, I was just watching a video of doing some research again and watching a video from the perspective of a borderline. There's plenty of channels out there for borderlines, and there was this, of course, beautiful young girl or young woman talking about favorite person, and I couldn't escape the eyes. The look in her eyes. I wanted to just enmesh with her, save her, connect with her. There's just something so incredibly attractive about the eyes of a borderline to me. And that's the scary part, because unlike the grandiose narcissist, unlike the dead-eyed psychopath, the external psychopath, not the secondary psychopath, but unlike the grandiose dead-eyed psychopath who is frightening to look at to me, and I want to do everything but connect with them. When I look into the face of those borderlines, and they're borderline women for me, and their little eyes, their sad little beautiful vulnerable eyes, I lose it. And that is because this idea of the favorite person stimulates in the partner so many things. It makes you feel like you are completely loved. It makes you feel as though you really are their favorite person because of who you are. They tell you that. My borderline girlfriend used to say, you're the best, and she'd do it in a little baby voice. She'd say, you're the best because you do all the things. It's about as close as you can get to saying, you're my favorite person because you do exactly what I want. Now, the truth is that I wasn't her favorite person. But in the moment when she said that, she meant it. And when your borderline girlfriend climbs on your back and kisses the back of your neck and says, you're my favorite person, she means it. And then you look in her eyes and there's no lying there. She's not lying to you. It just, it completely, totally disarms you, because the apparent honesty of it, the apparent vulnerability of it, makes you think that they mean it. Now, what is happening is that she is enmeshing with you, which means that what she is seeking to do is she is seeking to be absorbed into your identity. And this is disarming because as an adult, when somebody does this to you, you respond from your desire for enmeshment. She is not looking to get you to enmesh with her. Let me repeat myself. She is not looking to get you to enmesh with her. She is looking to enmesh with you. This is a one-way street. It's not a two-way street. You don't know that because she's an adult. So the first thing that happens is you become enmeshed because you believe you're being totally seen as an individual. You believe that she is seeing the best of you and she sees your uniqueness, and she's the one that finally shows up and really truly sees me for who I am. I can totally be myself. That I don't have to try and be anything. I just have to be myself and she sees me. This is the fantasy of all romantic relationships, and it's normal and it's beautiful. When it happens with a borderline, it's not just that you get that enmeshment. There's those borderline eyes behind it that have something about it that is irresistible. Now we'll get to that part. So the irresistible part of the borderline that also disarms you, which makes it so ultimately so dangerous, so destructive, is because what is happening is that she is operating from a regressed infantile state. Now, if she were a 4-year-old little girl and she was your niece and she looked at you with those eyes and said, you're my favorite person, what would happen is human evolution has wired within us a parental, overwhelming, overriding force. When a little girl, little boy comes up to you and is needy and is cute and enmeshed with you, you do not have any protective mechanisms because the species says, no, you have to take care of the little ones. You have to. You throw away all of your needs and desires and you go completely into that. It melts you. That's why we like puppies. That's why we like kittens, because they stay enmeshed their whole lives. That's why borderlines love animals. They don't split on their animals because their animals stay completely enmeshed in them all the time. The animals, animals are like that. They make you their favorite person, but they never split on you. They never change their mind. You die, they will go to sleep on your grave for the next 10 years. They don't ever disconnect from that. What did we say about dogs? They're loyal. They're our loyal companions. So when a borderline adult does this, we get confused. Two things happen. Number one, you're attracted to a borderline because you yourself have a very similar wound. It's just not as advanced. It might be really close. It might be really traumatically, horrifically advanced, but it's not as bad as the borderlines. So you end up taking the parental role whether you like it or not. And so you get confused because the first thing that happens is an adult comes to you that you're attracted to, that you have a connection with, an adult who molds themselves to you, which you think, oh, we're on the same path. We're similar. We're soulmates. You're not. She's just, she doesn't have an identity, so she creates one on the spot that happens to match yours. And you go, oh my God, we have so much in common. We're so alike. You and I think so alike. She goes, I know we do. What is it you think again? I think that thing too. That's the same thing I think. You're my favorite person. And you go, oh my God, that's so awesome. And you feel an adult connection. But what's going on internally is that you need to be seen by your mother. Your mother was the person who was supposed to look at you in the crib and look you in the eyes and see your uniqueness. In fact, it was your mother who was supposed to energetically, psychically, telepathically, and verbally and through her actions give you the feeling that you're special. There's nobody in the universe like you. There never will be, which is true. And I see you for who you are. I'm your mother. I have no personal agenda with you if she's healthy. My only agenda is to completely, totally enmesh with you and allow you to enmesh with me. But because I am your mother, I don't have an ego that I need to force on you. You're free to be yourself. I'm your mother. I'm going to create a safe space where you can become and blossom into your true self. And that creates an enmeshment for the infant who gives up because they don't have an identity. They give up their identity and the mother creates one out of what she sees. So it's an actually very healthy thing. You don't realize that, but when your borderline says, you're my favorite person, you're this, you're that, and I love that about you, you are actually regressing to your childhood state and you're trying to heal the part in you that your mother couldn't do. Now, this can be a healthy thing. If you're with somebody who has an identity and is able to take on that role, this can be a healthy thing, and this is one of the reasons why people get in relationships. But your borderline isn't capable of doing that. You're misunderstanding her. That's why you get so hurt and so angry. If she walked up to you, if you took the dialogue that went on between you and your borderline girlfriend and you simply gave it to a little 4-year-old girl, she would walk up to you, say those same things, your heart would open up and you would be filled with love, but you wouldn't want to marry her. You would want to pick her up, put her on your knee, rock her, and say, do you want to play tiddlywinks? And then you would put her in her crib and put her to bed, and then you would go back to being an adult. You wouldn't have any personal agenda. You wouldn't be thinking to yourself, I can't wait to marry her. You wouldn't be thinking any of those things. But when your borderline walks up to you with those big blue eyes, and she has actually the essence of a tiny little 2-year-old saying, you're my favorite person, you get confused. You get triggered and you want mommy to enmesh with you. That's why you, like super glue, get so attached to her and you think she's your soulmate. She's not your soulmate. And the other thing is now the borderline that makes it so confusing. Not only are you confused because you're actually falling in love with a little girl and you are conflating your adult desire to nurture and take care of a child. You're also projecting because you experience your own wounded child and you're projecting that onto the borderline. That only makes it worse. But then on top of it, you think that your borderline is getting attached to you to the same degree you're getting attached to her. She thinks that too, by the way. She not only thinks that, she thinks it more than you. And you think in the moment, you know what, she's more attached to me than I am to her. But you are confusing what is going on. She's not more attached to you. You are conflating need with commitment, and they're not the same thing. She has overwhelming infantile needs. An infant will not survive if mom does not continuously take care of the child. This is why in many cultures the child is literally attached to you wherever you go. All of your time is spent in physical contact with the child. It's because the child will die, literally physically die. Not only without the love, but there's like this world out there that can do things and they just sit there and they can't do anything for themselves. Well, that's what's going on with your borderline. She emotionally is an infant. She has the needs of an infant. Her nervous system has the needs of an infant. So when she looks at you and says, you're my favorite person, she's not saying to you, I see you for who you are, and I love you for who you are, and I'm here unconditionally to support your identity. She's saying, my nervous system is telling me that if I don't attach to you, I'm going to die. So I'm going to put all kinds of unreasonable demands on you, and because I'm an infant, I confuse that with love. I confuse need with love. And because I'm a borderline, I express that from a vulnerable narcissistic place. I'm wrapped up in my own world. I'm wrapped up in my own total self-absorption, and it's full of need. But you confuse that for love. So you've got all these things working against you from the beginning. He says, I'm clueless that she's abusing me. She says, I'm setting him up to fail. Well, because the infant is never going to get, as an adult, she's grown up in an adult body now. She's got an adult brain. There's no adult in the world that will ever be able to meet those unresolved, traumatic, infantile needs. The time is over. That time, the timer's gone off. It's over. A pencil's down. You're not getting it. She doesn't know that. So the difference, that the other part that makes it so traumatic and so painful for you, is that you have super glued yourself to her. Why? Because you have an identity. And so as an adult, you are programmed to superglue your identity to another person who is able to mirror back your essence and show you who you are. You're able to transfer your desire to be enmeshed with your mother. You're able to, as an adult, transfer it over to another adult where that enmeshment evolves into a higher relationship. But it's another survival technique that we've gone through this evolutionary process. We're supposed to superglue to our partner in the beginning. If we didn't, no relationships would ever last. Once you were done with, and once the sexual desire was over, you'd both get up and go the other way, just like they do in nature. That's why cats, dogs can't wait to get away from each other. They're stuck to each other and they're yelping and they can't wait to get away from each other. They've fulfilled their need for procreation. It's time to go and do your own thing. But humans are designed to bond and create units, unless you're a borderline. So she doesn't have, I'm using super glue, but it's really more like Velcro. She has the desire to enmesh, but she doesn't have the Velcro. So what happens? She slips right off. You have Velcro. You Velcro to other people. She doesn't. She enmeshes and then slips right off. She can see you as her favorite person. Look you in the eye and say, please don't leave. You say, I'm just going to go to the store and get some milk. And she says, hurry back. I can't stand being away from you. You leave because she's not Velcroed to you. Somebody else walks by, and that's now her new favorite person. You being her favorite person doesn't mean anything. And this is where we get to the sociopathy. Sociopathy, this is, I gotta keep making videos about empathy because psychologists aren't getting it. They don't understand it. I think psychologists are when they're talking about empathy and they break it up into all these different kinds of empathy, it's all a bunch of nonsense because love and empathy are choices. They're not feelings. It's great if you have those feelings and you're able to back up those feelings with a choice and a commitment, but you can be completely without any empathic feelings and make the decision to just be a good person. And the end result is the other person thinks that you have empathy. And in fact, you do. Borderline doesn't have empathy. Not in the choice. She doesn't have the ability to choose and maintain her empathy. She can't do it. She doesn't have the Velcro. It's what the Velcro does. The Velcro sticks you to the other person, and then when you're not turned on by them at the moment, the Velcro keeps you in place. You try and leave, but you can't. She doesn't have any Velcro. The moment that she loses that interest in you, she is gone. She's out the door. And there's nothing stopping her, and she's not looking back. The need that she has is not to connect with you. The need that she has is for you to regulate her emotions. I encourage you to go and watch videos from borderlines talking about favorite person. What you will find out is sometimes within the first sentence they will say, my favorite person, blah, 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 but then I hate them because they're not doing what I want. I have this feeling that if I'm not with them, I won't be okay. And everything, revolves around them because they make me feel stable because I don't have a sense of self. But the moment that I think that they're not doing what I want, I absolutely hate them. This is favorite person. It's not what you think it is. But why do you stay? Why do you not do what somebody who is individuated would do? First off, the borderline would never become attached to an individuated person because they wouldn't be able to see in your eyes the wound. And that's what happens. We find each other, we look at each other through the eyes and we see the wound on an unconscious level and we go, oh my God, I'm so hot for her. Oh my God, I'm so hot for him. No, you're not. Your unconscious went, I see a wound in there. That's the same as mine. You both do it. And the borderline looks at you and says, that person is going to do what my mom was supposed to do. My mom was supposed to regulate all of my needs. My nervous system needs, my physical needs, my emotional needs, my psychological needs, my every single need, mom was supposed to regulate that. And mom said, I'm going to do that. I have a kid and my job is to completely, totally focus unconditionally on this child and regulate every single one of their feelings and emotions and physical reactions and desires. And that's what they're doing with you. And the reason why they get so furious with you is because even if you do exactly what they want, it doesn't work. And they get furious with you because you were, in their mind, you promised them. You promised them you would take this away forever. You didn't say that, but they just assumed that. A child does that. You know, if a child holds out their arms and you pick them up, that's it. That's a promise. I am promising to take care of all of your needs and make it all go away. But because she's coming from a place that's, the expiration date on that has come and gone. You know, if she's 30 years old, it came and gone 28 years ago. You're dealing with somebody 2 years old or younger. That's when borderline personality disorder is created. That's where they're at emotionally, and that is a broken thing that will never change. Which is why this guy has no idea what's coming for him. But she's so beautiful, so sweet, and she's, you know, her skin is soft, and she's hugging him and holding his hand and making him dinner and all kinds of other really wonderful things that nobody else did. But all he has to do is she just has to get the feeling, the slightest feeling that he's not going to fulfill every single one of her needs and regulate every single neurological, psychological, emotional, and physical need. All he has to do is that she has to have the perception that he hasn't fulfilled it, and she will go from he is my favorite person to he is literally the worst person that has ever existed. And that's never going to change, guys. So until you realize, number one, that that is what's going on with her, until you realize that no matter how many times you try to regulate her, to give her what she wants, no matter how hard you try to become like her, you never will be able to give her what she wants. Now, let's get to the second part, and here's where the psychopath part of the borderline comes out. And the psychopathic abuse is really huge in this, because if you end up staying, because here you're being set up. She wants to repeat the pain she experienced. This is all on an unconscious level. She's not aware of this. But what she wants to do is she wants to attach to you as an infant, and then she wants you to reject her, because then she will be able to justify, she will have an external justification for the internal pain and rage she's continuously feeling. You're being set up for that. She expects the impossible from you. She literally expects you to be God. She expects the impossible from you because you're supposed to fail, and you're supposed to reject her. You're supposed to go, look, I'm not God. I can't meet your needs. I'm out of here. And then she then gets to justify her feelings of total, complete, and utter abandonment, and she gets to blame you for it, and she gets to play out that victim role in her mind. But if you don't do that, then the second part comes in where you stay and you believe, well, she's my soulmate. We're on the same path. She totally sees me when she's not, triggered and having some kind of emotional issue going on, because I don't know, I think maybe she has bipolar, maybe she has some kind of other thing, but we'll work through it and I'll fix her. And because then she'll go back to seeing me for who I am, and I'll be her favorite person again, and everything will be, and I will be regulated, and all of my needs will be taken care of, and I will be a good person. And that's really where you want to go. You didn't fall for the first trap, which was you were supposed to reject her, which a lot of people do. They get with a borderline, or they become friends with a borderline, they reject them. That person's nuts. I don't know what the hell's going on with it, but I don't want anything to do with that. You didn't do that, because if you did, you wouldn't be on my channel. You didn't do that. What you did do is you said, I'm going to project onto her my rational thinking, which is, if I just stick it out, I will prove to her that she's safe, that I'm safe. Sorry. I will prove to her that I'm safe and that she can trust me. Because that's what I would do. I'm afraid of commitment. I'm afraid of getting hurt. But if somebody can prove to me that they love me, I will commit to them and I will superglue myself to them and it will be wonderful. And you say, she's just going to be like me. She's just a little more neurotic than I am. You know, she's kind of abusive, but you know what? The good stuff was so good. By the way, we haven't had any good stuff for a while. It only was really good in the beginning, but you know, we've had hints of it and she promises sometimes. And you know, so I'm just going to stick it out and you think she's rational and she's not. And what she's trying to do is to get you to end up where she is, which is that if you stay in this, what will happen is the roles will reverse and you will become the infant who needs his mother in order to be regulated. And then what ends up happening is you experience what she experienced in the beginning. In the beginning, what happened is that when you weren't there, when you were gone for 10 minutes, she didn't think she could survive. She needed you to regulate her, and you know, you'd come back in and she'd be so happy and she'd wag her tail like a good little dog. And you thought that's what was going on. And she couldn't function without you. She was so needy. Now you have transferred onto her she has maybe even gone in, maybe even consciously gone in and pulled out those deep, deep feelings. I remember my borderline girlfriend, like the most advanced psychiatrist, the most brilliant genius psychiatrist, she would be able with those laser-like eyes to go in and pull out my deepest, most vulnerable feelings and get me to cry. And then say that she was going to regulate those feelings, not those words. She was going to be there for me. She was going to heal that. And then I became addicted to her. I now needed her to resolve those feelings. I needed her to regulate me. But it started out, I was the one that was supposed to regulate her. And then when you get to that point, when she has reduced you, over time, maybe consciously even pulled out all of the deepest childhood needs that you have, and she tells you in one form or another that I'm going to be your mother. I'm going to regulate you. I'm going to take care of you. And you become regressed and you go back to your childhood state. Maybe you're not 2 years old. Maybe you're 4 years old. Maybe you're 5 years old. And you go back to that state and you can't function without her. And now, what does she do? She sees that in you. She becomes absolutely disgusted with herself in you because you're now reflecting what she started out with, which was an infantile need to be regulated by the mother. Because she was rejected by her mother, she hates that need within herself. She hates it. And now you have it. And you, if you were like me, I came to her and I said, hey, you know, I need you to be there for me. I've been doing everything to be there for you and I'm happy to do that, but you got to be there for me. And she said, I'm not going to do that just because you want me to. That's a quote. I was like, what? I just spent 2.5 hours holding you and wiping your tears and then you got up and left. And I'm like, hey, I need some attention. Well, that's not my problem. If you wanted to give yourself to me in that moment and help me, that's great. I appreciate it, but I don't owe you anything. These are direct quotes. She's going to be disgusted by your needs. She's going to be disgusted by your need to be regulated because she has entrained you to need that. She's going to hate you for it because she hates herself for it. You're a little different. You're not wounded in the same way. So when you see that childhood need, it brings out in you tremendous empathy and you want to heal it. You're not disgusted by it. You want to take care of it. The more needy she is, the more you want to help her because even though you're not completely individuated, you have enough of an identity to know that that's what you want for yourself. So you project it onto her. But now you've been reduced. She has manipulated you and reduced you to a totally needy infant who needs her to regulate you. And what does she do? She leaves. She discards you. She says, I can't be with you ever again. You're the most untrustworthy person. You're horrible to me. I can never even talk to you. You're toxic. She will accuse you of being toxic and abusive and narcissistic and sociopathic and all the exact opposite of what you were. She will do that because, again, she's projecting onto you what's going on to her, and she can't stand her own neediness, and she has to destroy her neediness because that's what her parents did. So she's going to do it in you. She's going to reject you, abandon you, and then you will be where she was. You will be unable to go through the day without thinking about her. I remember during the numerous discards that I have, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was a continuous part of it. Didn't matter if I was working on the computer, didn't matter what I was doing. I was hearing in my head, I wonder what she's thinking. I wonder if she still loves me. I wonder if she's going to call me back. I had been reduced to it. It wasn't like it went away and came back. I was going through it all the time. If I was lucky enough to be able to fall asleep, I had to go and get some herbal concoctions from the pharmacist, the homeopathic pharmacist. I need some herbal concoctions to help me sleep because I just couldn't sleep. If I was lucky enough to get to sleep for an hour, I'd then bolt up out of bed with this feeling of terror. It's because now I had become the needy infant who needed to be regulated, and it didn't matter how abusive she was to me. I was super glued to her. I needed her to regulate me. So in the beginning, she's love bombing you. You feel so good. She's not only setting you up to fail, she is setting you up to become her. And this poor guy is clueless that he's being abused. Even in the beginning, when she looks at you with those eyes and says, I love you. You're the perfect person. You're so wonderful in this way. You're so wonderful in that way. It's abusive because she doesn't see you. You are being objectified. You are a dildo. You are nothing. You don't have a personality. You're not a person to her. You are a thing that she is going to paint on the picture of her mother or her father or whoever it is, and she's going to look at you and see somebody else. She's using you. Now, she's not doing this consciously, of course. She has a mental illness. This is why you guys can't say, on the one hand, they need to be held accountable, and at the same time then spout out, yeah, they're really sick. They have a mental illness. You got to pick one. So either they're rational and evil geniuses and they did it on purpose and they don't have a mental illness, or they do have a mental illness and they really have no clue what they're doing. They look at you and they see their mother. You say, I love you, and they heard you say, I'm going to slice your eyeballs into tiny pieces. And that means they're psychotic. It means they don't see actual reality. And if you can't accept that, you are going to live a life of horrible pain for the rest of your life because the cognitive dissonance will keep you in there forever unless you do the one thing. How I survived my borderline girlfriend, you can see exactly what to do. And I can tell you, every single person who has followed all of my suggestions to the letter, every single one of them that has gotten back to me has told me that they've healed. Not one of them has said, Mike, I followed every single one of your suggestions thoroughly to the letter, and I'm worse than I was before, or nothing has changed. Nobody's ever said that. The only people who continue to complain after watching these are the people who don't follow my suggestions. And you know who you are. And even if I tell you this, you're still not going to follow my suggestions because you are in a trauma pause mode, and the thought of your mother never being able to love you on an unconscious level is intolerable. That's why you get so angry at me when I tell you that, no, they've got a mental illness. While they are responsible for all of their actions, they still don't have the ability to control their impulses. And they are sociopathic, which means that they do not see you, they do not love you, and even if they do have emotions, empathic emotions, they won't be able to follow through on them, which means they don't have real empathy, which makes them sociopathic. And of course, if they do the work in 10 years, they can learn to act as though they're not sociopaths, which makes them like they're not sociopaths. It's all about the actions. It's not about the feelings. That's it for me, guys. Get the book, How I Survived My Borderline Girlfriend, audiobooks.thunderwizard.com, Amazon Kindle. AskMike.thunderwizard.com. If you got a question, I'll make a video about it, and other people will benefit from it. I really hope this takes off. It hasn't taken off. I really thought it was a great idea, but truth is, I don't know. It may not turn out to be anything, but that's not your problem. I will keep trying as many ways as I can to be as helpful as I can and to get the message out as I can. Do the one thing and you can heal. That's it for me, guys. I wish you all the best. I'll see you all next time.